Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to pull out the key takeaways from, a whole stack of material, really, just to give you that shortcut to being properly informed. So today, just think for a second about the chair you're maybe sitting on right now. Your work chair. At home, maybe in an office somewhere. Seems simple, doesn't it? Just a chair. But underneath that very normal surface, there's this whole hidden world of standards, really tough tests, and safety rules. Stuff that's actually looking out for you every day. And that's our mission for this deep dive. We want to unpack the really vital role of BIS, that's the Bureau of Indian Standards, and its certification for work chairs. Specifically, we're looking at the IS 18631.202 standard. We'll pull out the essentials, help you understand what the standard is really about, why it's actually mandatory, not just a suggestion, who needs to worry about it, and the whole process for making sure these everyday things are safe and perform well. Basically, making sense of the technical stuff and showing you why it matters. You'd be surprised how deep these simple rules go. Yeah, so let's unpack this. What exactly is IS 18631.2022? Well, fundamentally, it's the Indian standard, right? It sets out the performance needs and, crucially, the safety requirements for work chairs. We're talking specifically about chairs designed for, office work, professional settings. But it's more than just a list of rules, isn't it? It kind of shapes our daily health, our productivity, almost without us noticing, like an invisible guardian for your back.
Precisely. And maybe think of it less like red tape and more like, well, like a public health initiative almost. This standard, IS 18631, it lines up directly with international thinking on ergonomics and mechanical safety. So it's not just an Indian thing. It reflects global best practices for keeping users comfortable and safe. It's really designed to stop problems, back pain, workplace accidents before they even begin. That's the real deep dive, I think, the impact you don't see.
Right. It sounds incredibly thorough when you look at the actual tests involved. The standard covers stability, so you don't just tip over, obviously. Durability, because, well, you want the chair to last, don't you? They test the strength of the base, the seat, the backrest, all those points where a badly made chair might just give way.
Yeah, and when I read about the swivel and caster performance tests,
Yeah.
it made me think of this awful chair I once had. You know the type. Always thicking. Felt like it would flip if you leaned wrong. These standards seem to tackle those exact everyday annoyances we've probably all felt. Oh, absolutely. Even things like the recline and tilt mechanisms that get put through their paces, tested rigorously to make sure they're safe and reliable, use after use after use. What's fascinating here is just how comprehensive it all is. They really look at every single part of how the chair works and how safe it is. These aren't just random checks. They are directly linked to your safety and comfort, making sure the thing you sit on for hours is actually up to the job.
Okay, so we've got a handle on what IS 17631 covers all those vital tests. Here's where it gets really interesting for me. Why is this certification not just, good practice, but actually mandatory? It's not optional for manufacturers, it's the law. What pushed it to that point?
Well, that comes down to something called quality control orders, or QCOs. These are notified by DPIIT, that's the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, and by BIS itself. And these QCOs state really clearly, work chairs must have BIS certification before they can be sold or even distributed in India. It's not a suggestion, like you said, it's a hard legal requirement. It's about upholding national standards.
That legal muscle sounds serious. But practically, for you listening,
Yeah.
what's the biggest risk this mandatory certification protects you from? Something maybe you wouldn't even think about?
Yeah, that's a great question. If we connect this to the bigger picture, how does mandatory certification protect you, the end user, from hazards you might never consider? Well, there are really three main reasons driving this mandate. First, it's about legal compliance, making sure everything sold actually meets the rules. Simple as that. Second, and this is huge, it's consumer safety. It's about making sure your chair doesn't just, collapse under you mid-meeting. A pretty basic expectation, wouldn't you say?
Definitely.
It protects you from faulty, potentially dangerous products, things that could cause injury or just long-term discomfort. And third, it helps build market trust and fair competition. When all products have to meet a decent standard, people trust Indian products more, and it stops companies from selling cheap, potentially unsafe stuff. It levels the playing field.
That makes sense. It creates a baseline of protection.
Yeah.
Is there like a priority order? Is consumer safety always number one, or is it balanced with market stuff?
I'd say consumer safety is definitely paramount. Yes, all three link together, but the legal side and the market trust really flow from that fundamental need to ensure products aren't risky. If safety isn't guaranteed, market trust just disappears, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so given this mandate, who exactly needs to be applying for this certification? Is it just the big companies making chairs?
No, it casts a pretty wide net, actually. BIS certification for IS 17631 is definitely required for all Indian manufacturers making these chairs, that's clear. But it also applies to foreign manufacturers. They have to go through something called the FMCS scheme. That's the Foreign Manufacturer Certification Scheme. It's their route to getting certified to sell in India. And importantly, it also covers importers and even brand owners.
Oh,
So if you're bringing chairs into the country to sell, or if you're putting your own brand name on them, you're responsible too.
right. So as someone buying a chair, that means you should expect a certain level of quality no matter where it came from, as long as it's sold legally here. It really affects the whole market, the basic quality you can expect. Okay, so we've got the standard itself, the why mandatory for safety and trust, and the who manufacturers, importers, brands. Now, for anyone who actually needs to get this done, or even if you're just curious about how these safety nets get built, the big question is how? How does a chair get that BIS stamp, it sounds, involved?
It definitely is structured, requires attention to detail, but yeah, you can break it down. There are basically 5 key steps. First, you've got to correctly identify your product, the work chair, and the standard it falls under, which is IS 17631.022 in this case. Seems obvious, but getting that first step right is fundamental.
Okay, step 1, know your product, know the standard, then what?
Step 2 is arranging the actual product testing. And this isn't just any test lab. It has to be done at a laboratory that's specifically recognized by BIS. That ensures the tests are impartial, they're done correctly according to the standard, no shortcuts.
All right, so independent verified testing. Makes sense. Step 3.
Step 3 is filing the actual application with BIS. This means gathering and submitting all required documents, test reports, technical info, factory details. This part can be tricky, requires real precision.
I can imagine. Lots of paperwork. And after you apply.
Then comes step 4, the inspection. A BIS officer will actually visit the manufacturing plant. That applies whether it's a factory in India or overseas under the FMCS scheme. They're there to check that the production process itself, the quality control systems, are consistently up to scratch, not just that one sample you tested.
Okay, so they check the product and the process. That's thorough.
Exactly. And then finally, if all that goes well, you reach step 5. That's the grant of the BIS certification. And once you have that, you're authorized to use the ISI mark on your chairs, that well-known mark of quality.
Wow. Okay, so identify, test, apply, inspect, certify. It's quite a journey. And it really highlights why, as the material mentioned, getting some expert help might be a good idea.
It can be, yeah. The process, it has complexities. The source material mentions services, offering things like expert guidance, help with all that documentation, coordinating with the labs, basically handling the compliance process from start to finish.
Yeah, it lists specifics like BIS, CRS, and FMCS certification support, NABL, and ISO 17025 consultancy. That's about helping labs meet international quality standards, right? So their tests are recognized globally.
That's right. And also testing lab setup assistance and just general regulatory support for companies here and abroad. These kinds of services exist precisely because navigating these regulations, while essential, isn't always straightforward for businesses. They help ensure products get certified correctly, which ultimately means safer chairs for everyone.
So when you boil it all down, that chair you're sitting in, it's not just furniture. It's likely an engineered product, tested, certified against a specific standard, IS 17631.2022, to make sure it's safe and performs properly. This whole complex, often invisible system is working behind the scenes for your well-being, building trust. You can just, well, sit down and get on with your day.
Absolutely. And understanding a bit about these standards, like the BIS certification, it empowers you, doesn't it, as a consumer? You can make more informed choices. You appreciate that hidden layer of quality assurance that goes into so many everyday things. It's kind of amazing when you think about it, the story of regulation and safety checks behind even simple items, all designed with you in mind.
Definitely food for thought. Knowing this now, what other everyday items do you use, maybe without a second thought, that could have these unseen layers of quality control protecting you? And what new questions does that make you ask about the standards shaping our world?